Hey guys, happy Monday. I hope you had a wonderful 3-day weekend and you enjoyed your time off. I don't know if you can tell, but I am obviously not in my apartment. I'm at my parents' house in Carroll Stream, right by Glenbard North, right down the road. And luckily for us today, I have a special guest, Spike. Hi, Spike. So I am lucky enough to spend my day with him today. So he is actually going to be featured in our lesson video for trivia. So thank God you're tuning in today. We are officially moved on to chapter 10. We are in chapter 10. It is all about radicals, and it is tough. I will tell you it is tough, but my friends, this is like your last week of instruction. This is your last week to put forth everything that you've got to get out of 8th grade as much as you can. So really, really, I know you guys are tired. I know it's been a lot, but I'm praying just hang tight. One more week and then you're almost home free. Okay. So today your objective is for you to be able to simplify radical expressions. So we're just simplifying radicals. So in your notebook, I don't know what page you're on, but this is chapter 10 and we're looking at simplifying radicals. Okay. Essentially, there's two steps for for simplifying a radical. The first thing that you want to do is once you see it, you want to rewrite it as a product of two factors. Okay. And within those factors, you're really hoping that one of them is a perfect square. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. If I asked you to simplify this radical, the square root of 45, I want to rewrite it, kind of like you might think of this as like a factor tree. I want to rewrite it as a product of two factors, okay, two numbers that multiply to 45, and I would really like one of them to be a perfect square. So factors of 45 that I know are 3 and 15, 45 and 1, or I could do 9 and 5. And the advantage of using 9 and 5 is that 9 is a perfect square, and you'll see how that's going to help us. All right, so I've got 9 and I've got 5 under square roots. Now ask yourself, can you simplify the square root of 9? Hopefully you're saying, yes, this is a man. We can simplify that because the square root of 9 is just 3. So when we simplify that guy, our answer is going to be 3. Okay, and it's the thinnest highlighter in the world. Can you simplify the square root of 5? Can you factor anything out of it? Is there a perfect square root of 5? Well, the answer is no. So the only things that I can simplify from here is just a normal integer of 3 and a square root of 5. And when we have to simplify the expression, you just squish those two together. So here's what it would look like. 3 rad 5. And that's how you say it. So the way that I simplified this radical is I broke it up into two factors, okay, two numbers that multiply to get this number here. This is called our radicand. I'm looking for one of those factors to be a perfect square. So like for square root of 9, I knew that that's going to turn out to be a positive 3. Okay. And I couldn't do anything with my 5. So I usually just circle it or highlight it so I know not to forget about it at the end. And then when you combine these, this is technically being combined by multiplication. It turns into 3 rad 5, and that's your answer. Let's try another one. Okay, if I asked you to simplify the square root of 50n, don't worry about the n until the very end. Okay, we'll take care of that later. But I'm going to highlight it so we don't forget about it. So what I need you to do is ask yourself, what are two factors of 50, two numbers that multiply to 50, and can you find a factor pair in which one of those is a perfect square? So like right away in my head, I think of 5 and 10, but neither of those are perfect squares. 50 and 1, not perfect squares. Can you think about two other numbers that multiply to 50 with one of them being a perfect square? How about 25 and 2? Okay, I know that the square root of 25 is 5, so I simplified that as far as it can go. I can't do anything else with this. Can you simplify the square root of 2 anymore? No, there's nothing else you can do. That's got to stay how it is. Now look at the three things that I have highlighted in yellow, because those are what we need to consolidate and push together as our final expression. So I know that I'll have an integer of 5 on the outside, and then underneath my square root sign, okay, because notice that my n is still underneath my square root, I'm going to have 2n. So here's what it looks like. This 5 is on the outside, that's just a normal integer. My 2 stays underneath my square root sign, and then obviously my n, I couldn't do anything with it because you can't factor anything out of there, so that stays underneath as well. So my final answer is 5 rad 2n. Okay, let's try it one more time. If I gave you 3 rad 25, okay, the 3 is going to stay out here. There's nothing you can do with it. It's just kind of like a constant or a coefficient if you're thinking about it, even though there's no variable. But can you simplify the square root of 25? Well, I know that the square root of 25 is 5. And now here's what you're going to do. This is very, very important, okay? I've got a 3 and I've got a 5. When we combine those, we combine them with multiplication. What is 3 times 5? Please tell me 15. And it's 15. So technically, the simplification of this expression here is going to be 15, okay? It is time for trivia round 1. And here we go. Come on. Spike, who's the better rapper, Lil Baby or Drake? Okay, go. Go ahead. What? What a traitor. He chose Lil Baby. Spike. That one really hurt. I was very upset about that one, but that's okay. I still love him. He's very cute. Okay, here we go. Now we're going to move on to some that are a little bit more complicated like this. Ooh, yikes. But we can do it. Promise, promise. Okay. So when you see that you've got the expression 108x to the third power, I always save my variables for last. So you go ahead and do that too. Let's take care of the variables at the very end. So the first thing that we need to do is find two factors, two numbers that multiply to 108, and you're going to try and have one of them be a perfect square. Okay, well, personally, like when I'm thinking about factors, I'm like, okay, I know that 9 times 12 is 108, and that's about it because I don't have those at the top of my head. And that's lucky for us because the square root of 9 turns out to be 3, and there should not be a square root around that, so I apologize. The square root of 9 is 3. So we've simplified it as far as it can go. So I always circle or highlight it once I've done as much as I can. Now, when we think about the square root of 12 here, I know that I can break that down even further. What are two factors of 12? And one of them hopefully is a perfect square. Well, we could do 1 and 12, but 12 isn't a perfect square as neither is 1. We could do 2 and 6. Again, no perfect squares. But what about 4 and 3? Notice that I wrote them as a product of the square root of 3 and the square root of 4. Can you do anything with the square root of 3? No, that's pretty much all that you've got there. There's nothing else that you can do to simplify it. So I'm going to highlight it so I don't forget about it. How about the square root of 4? What is the square root of 4? It is 2. Okay, so that's as far as I can simplify. Again, I'm going to highlight it or circle it so I don't forget about it. So as of right now, I've got a 2, a 3, and a rad 3. That takes care of simplifying 108, and then I'm going to show you how to consolidate all of them together. But I want to do the variables first. This is very important. When we have x to the third power, I can rewrite that as x squared times x. Because when you multiply bases with exponents, we actually add them. So if you look, 2 plus 1 would give me 3. So again, if I've got x to the third power, I can factor that out to x squared and x, okay? Because if you were to multiply these together, it'd give you x to the third. Now, I know that I can't do anything with the square root of x. There's nothing I can simplify from there. I can't factor anything out, so I'm going to highlight it. But what is x squared? What's the square root of that? That's just going to be x because x times x is x squared. Okay, so that gives us another simplification. All right, pay very, very close attention here, you guys. Let me get my red pen, and then I'm going to show you how we can combine all of our simplified pieces into one. What you're going to do first is look for all of your regular numbers or variables that are outside of the radical, or they don't have one. That's going to be like my 2, my 3, and my x. We combine those with multiplication. So I know 2 times 3 is 6, and then you have your x here as well. Then, honestly, you guys, I also kind of cross them out so I don't forget about it. The only thing that I see left that's highlighted is rad 3 and rad x. We again combine those with multiplication underneath here, and here's what we have. So ladies and gentlemen, when you get these larger numbers, you're going to have to break it into two factors, but one of the factors might be broken down even more, okay? After you get all of your final pieces and you simplify as much as possible, either highlight those things or circle them so you don't forget about them, okay? And then also make sure you take care of your variables at the end. Like, guys, I know that this can be kind of complicated or confusing, but you're doing a great job. All right, so now we're going to move on to a little bit of a different, kind of the same. We're going to talk about multiplying radicals, and we actually touched on this on the last slide. When we multiply radicals, essentially what you're doing is you're going to multiply the integers on the outside. Okay, so anything that's on the outside, you're going to multiply those together. And then you're going to multiply together whatever's underneath your radical and combine it as a single product underneath your radical sign. So let me show you. If I did 2 rad 5 times 7 rad 3, okay, the first thing that I want to do is just multiply my integers on the outside. That gives me a product of 14. Then I'm just going to multiply whatever's underneath my radical signs. 5 times 3 gives me 15. And here I am. I cannot simplify 15 any further because it would just be like rad 15, rad 1, or rad 3, rad 5. You can't pull out any perfect squares. So this is the simplified expression. Let's look at that again. If I gave you 7 rad 12 times 2 rad 2, let's multiply our integers on the outside, which that's going to be our 7 and our 2, and then we can multiply the numbers underneath our radical signs. So I will have 14 rad 24. 14 from the 7 and 2, 12 times 2 gives me 24. Do not stop here because you can simplify the square root of 24 even further. So what are two factors of 24 with one of them being a perfect square? In my head, I'm like, okay, 1 and 24. Nope. 2 and 12. Nope. How about 8 and 3? Nope. How about 4 and 6? Okay, I know 4 is a perfect square, so that's going to work for me. Can you simplify the square root of 6 here? Can you do anything with that? There's nothing you can pull out. If you did 3 times 2, neither of those are a perfect square, so you're not going to get anywhere. But I know that the square root of 4 is 2. Okay, so that's the simplified version. So now here's what I have. I need to combine my 14 and my 2 because those are just normal integers, those are regular, and I'm going to combine them with multiplication, which gives me 28. The only number left underneath the radical is a 6, so my final answer is 28 rad 6. And that brings us to trivia round 2. And here we go with Mr. Spike. Oh my gosh, you guys, look at him. Spike! Is he sleeping like that? It's a very chill day for him. We just got back from a really long walk, so he's tired. Okay. Who does the savage TikTok better, Mr. Patel or Mr. Battaglia? Okay, go ahead, Spike. He chose Mr. Battaglia and Mr. Patel. I don't know if you guys would agree with that, but Spike knows all, and he tells all, so I trust him. Okay, here we go. This is a big one for us, and actually this is your last example. We've got 2 rad 7t times 3 rad 14t squared. Sorry that it's kind of pixelated. I multiplied my integers on the outside, 2 times 3, and that gave me 6. I did 7 times 14, which gives me 98. And then when you've got t times t to the second power, that's 2 over here and 1 over here, which gives us a total of 3 t's. I always like to do my variables at the end. You don't have to, but that's just how I'm going to model it for you. So step 1. I know that with 98, and I had to use my calculator. I did like, okay, 98 divided by 3, 98 divided by 4. Like I was just like looking for different numbers that would give me a factor pair for 98. And I found that 2 times 49 is 98. So can you simplify the square root of 2 anymore? No, you can't pull anything out. It's not a perfect square, so we're going to leave it. Can you simplify square root of 49? Well, I know the square root of 49 is 7, so that's my simplified piece here. Okay, so I'm going to highlight that because I can't do anything else with it. I'm also going to highlight my 6 out here so I don't forget about that. So far, I've got 6, 7, and then rad 2. Now let's take care of the variables. If you've got t to the third power, that's the same thing as saying t squared times t, because 2 plus 1 is 3. Can I do anything with this rad t here? No, so that's going to stay underneath the radical. T squared, if I take the square root of that, that just gives me t, because t times t is t squared. And so there's my little simplification here. Now, we have to combine all of these yellow highlighted pieces. Let's start with the pieces that are not under radical signs, which that would be my 6, my 7, and my t. Well, what is 6 times 7? It's 42. And then you just need to throw the t on there since it's combined with multiplication. So you've got 42t. Underneath my radical, I've got just a 2 and just a t. Again, 2 times t. Push them together with multiplication. And here's what you've got. So if I simplified this whole expression here, it would give me 42t rad 2t. That was a lot, I know. Okay, last round of trivia, and here we go. Okay, Spike, who's better at 2K? Mrs. Laban or Jose? Okay, go ahead. That's right. Mrs. Laban is better at 2K. Good job. It's me. Make it known. Tell the world I am better at 2K. So just saying. Actually, Spike's just saying. All right, guys. So before we kind of close out for today, let me just recap a few things. When we're simplifying radicals, what you're really looking to do is kind of factor it and break it down. Okay, once you find a factor pair with hopefully one of those factors being a perfect square, you're going to want to highlight whenever you get as far as you can go. Like when I did this 45 and I found square root of 9, square root of 5, I know I can simplify this further to a regular 3, and that's as far as I can go, so I highlighted it. With square root of 5, I couldn't do anything else, so I highlighted it, and then you can combine them with multiplication. When we are multiplying, when we're multiplying, remember to multiply your numbers or variables on the outside of your radical sign, and then also to multiply the ones underneath your radical sign together. Be very cognizant of your work, be meticulous and precise. All right, your Monday assignment for today is the Simplifying Radicals quizzes. The code is for you in the post. I also linked it in the e-learning folder. Other than that, you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you for being amazing, and I'm very proud of you. And also, Spike says goodbye. Spike, say goodbye. He's very tired. He cannot be bothered. He must take a nap. Okay, see you later.